We got Clarence Hill, who is a frequent contributor on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show and also making his first appearance. My main man, Donnie Doo, Donovan Lewis, the one and only from The Ticket. Perhaps you've heard our musings before when we're on The Ticket together. Donnie Doo, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, Joe. Thanks for having me, man.
Good. Well, we appreciate you being here. And let's jump right into it, fellas, because this Cowboys team, can you believe we got 8 more weeks in this? Y'all looking forward to that? Are we looking forward to that? What bothered you most about what you saw today, Donovan?
Man, it was the offense. You would think that you wouldn't have to change the offense too much with Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush. It's not like Dak was just airing it out, so you thought a sound offensive plan would be good. And we've seen Cooper Rush be good the few times that he's filled in for Dak. So you thought that everything would be a-okay offensively, but my goodness, was that bad? That was probably one of the worst offensive performances I think I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen the stat line of what Cooper Rush put out there with so little yards and so many completions. It was just a bad offensive performance all the way around. And it's been bad offensively all year, but that kind of took it to another level today.
Yeah, Cooper Rush, 13 to 23 for 45 yards. How do you do that? We looked at the averages. The Cowboys averaged 4 yards per rush today. They only averaged 3.9 yards per catch. Clarence, how does that happen?
Yeah, I don't know how it happens, but I mean, this team is not built for Cooper Rush. You know, when I know Donovan talked about what Cooper Rush's success in the past, and he's not Dak Prescott. And when he won in the past, it's because they had a good defense, because they had a good rushing game. If you go back and look at some of the wins in the past, he never threw for a lot of yards. That's never been his game. He's been more of a bus driver. But when you have 5 turnovers, he never threw the ball down the field. Everything down the field was short. Everything he completed was right at the line of scrimmage. You know, it just was not there for the Cowboys. But who didn't see this coming? Let's be honest about this. I mean, no one, I mean, I didn't give them a chance, offensively or defensively, against this Eagles team. And they held up early on defensively. That was a surprise because of the great play of DeMarvion Overshawn, who's really been a bright spot, and Micah Parsons getting his 2 sacks. And, you know, they tried to, I guess, stop up the dam for a little bit. They were keeping their fingers in the dikes, and then everything just kind of, the floods went on the second half, and you saw what happened, what we thought was going to happen at the start of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting, right? Because I do think Mike Zimmer needs to be commended. He had a real big-time chess piece come back in Micah Parsons, and he was able to scheme some things up in terms of getting pressure on Jalen Hurts. And listen, for that first half, we had a game, and it's just sad they couldn't get any offense going. What is your take overall, Clarence, on the job that Zimmer has done with a defense that has been decimated by injury?
Well, let's be honest. Zimmer was their biggest offseason acquisition. When they talk about things they did in the offseason, and I know we're loving Dan Quinn now, but nobody was happy with Dan Quinn after that Green Bay game. And I know the Cowboys are thinking, well, Zimmer's going to bring a sound scheme fundamentally. They're going to stop the run, and he's going to be a dog cusser, and he's going to make them more disciplined, and they won't have penalties. It's been a disappointment. Let's be honest about it. He doesn't have the bite or the bark that we thought he had. Certainly doesn't have a bite or the bark that he used to have. This defense has been atrocious, and has been guys not being in position. You go back to last week when Trevon Diggs was not lined up, and they gave up that easy touchdown and were begging for a pick play when it was a man-to-man. You know who your guys are. Guys have been slow to learn his scheme. It's been a disappointment with Zimmer. Let's be honest about that. You know, certainly there's some bright spots. Certainly they're growing compared to where they were at the start of the season. But overall, he was the biggest offseason acquisition, and it's been a huge disappointment.
Donovan, what's your take on Zimmer?
Yeah, you know what? I guess it feels like he just is working with what he has. It's not like they just gave him a whole lot of toys to play with in the toy box in order to get this defense right. They failed spectacularly against Green Bay. And Clarence is right. He was the biggest off-season acquisition they had. Said, hey, you know what? Make this cake, but I'm going to take some ingredients away from you. But make the same cake and make it delicious. And he just can't do it with this team. They've just been really, really bad. And then when they have some success, Like even today, 5 sacks in the first half. They got a turnover. They gave the Cowboys offense the ball at the 6 yard line and said, "Go take the lead. Go take the lead." And the Cowboys offense couldn't do it. Had to settle for a field goal. It's 7-6. And then after that, the offense couldn't do anything. Man, this was probably one of their better performances today, and it's going to get overshadowed because they gave up 34 points, and it was a second half of, well, if the offense can't do anything, then we're stuck. We can't do anything, and there you go. So it's kind of been the book report of the season so far. Something good happens, about 7 bad things happen. Then something good happens, and then about 8 bad things happen. So that's what we're used to this year.
I'm glad you said overshadowed because the sun was particularly important on that potential 6-yard drive, Joe.
Unbelievable stuff. Listen, we got to take a break, guys, but stick with us. We got plenty more to talk about. In fact, we have to talk about the head coach.
I think ultimately our main takeaway is, especially after Micah Parsons' comments, Mike McCarthy's future. Because the last time that the Cowboys switched head coaches in the middle of the season, Wade Phillips in 2010, when McCarthy was on the other sideline in Green Bay on a 45-7 loss. Joe, your main takeaway from this game, and how do you think this shapes out the last?
Well, first of all, I think we did get a true barometer of just how far off the Cowboys are in terms of this division with what they did against the Eagles today. And I'm curious to see how it looks when they take on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. But as far as McCarthy goes, today I think he missed out on a prime opportunity because he tried to play it status quo, doing what they had been doing, just bringing Cooper Rush in, when the real play, and I talked to Clarence about this earlier in the week, he should have brought special packages for Trey Lance and used those packages when they were in the red zone to try and show a different wrinkle to the Eagles. It could have been effective. It would have been something that would have been a tendency breaker and something that they didn't see. It also would have introduced Trey Lance to the game in a way that he could have been comfortable. They have the RPO scheme in this offense already. It's built in. They should have used it. They could have used it instead of bringing him in the way they did. So I think McCarthy missed out on that. And again, we have all been on Mike McCarthy about the lack of creativity and how this offense feels stale. He had an opportunity to go against that grain. He didn't take it. And good luck on finding your next job, Mike McCarthy. Donovan, what do you think about Big Mike?
It almost feels like he's just trying to get fired. He's just like, you know what? I just want to get the heck up out of here. I'm not going to quit. Fire me so I can go on about my business. No, it's amazing to me how the offense has just crashed from last year. This offense was so good last year. And if they needed to outscore people, okay, they can do that if the defense wasn't holding up their end of the bargain. But it is just a 180 from what they did last year with some of the same pieces in the running game. They should have known they couldn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish with the running game that they have right now. But they are, again, it's the same thing. Make the same cake, but take away some of the ingredients. You should be okay. And yeah, this year, he's not going to have a job after this year, not with Dallas. He may get hired somewhere else. But man, the way it's looking and just the body language and just everything about it, it's almost like he wants to go back to the barn and watch more football and see if he can sit out for another year or two before he gets another gig.
Serious question, though, Clarence. How long do you think this team can go on like this? Because there was that air of hopelessness, especially as that second half wore on today.
Yeah, and just from a point of order, we talked to Jerry after the game, and Jerry said he's not making the in-season coaching change. He insisted he's not doing it. He regrets doing it with Wade Phillips in 2010. He regretted firing Chan Gailey. He said he's not making the in-season coaching change. He's not going to do anything with Mike McCarthy. That's what he says now. He said that a couple of times this season already, that he's not making the in-season coaching change. So it looks like Mike McCarthy is certainly going to play out the string in the season in which he came into the year needing to at least get the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl to keep his job. He's basically been a lame duck coach on a 1 year in the last year of his contract with no promise to be back next year unless he improved from those 25 seasons of the last 3 years with only one playoff win. So he had to be better. Yeah, it doesn't feel good. One thing I do want to point out, you talked about Trey Lance and the packages. When they brought Trey Lance in the third quarter, they did bring a package for him. Mike McCarthy said they had some packages for him, so they didn't use them around the goal line. But they did have those zone read type packages for him, and they did have a plan to use him in the game. And certainly he was brought in for 2 plays at the end of the third quarter. Then on the third down play, they didn't feel he was ready to do the third down. So they brought Cooper Rush back in, and then Trey Lance played the entire fourth quarter. But let's be honest, one of those red zone plays where they probably could have scored a touchdown is not about Mike McCarthy and not having a package. It's about Jerry Jones not having curtains on the stadium.
Thank you for leading me to my next topic. You have led me to my next topic because we have to talk about the curtains. And it's a shame that we have to talk about the curtains because that's where this franchise is, right? And it feels like the only reason that there aren't curtains and that we still have that glare is the stubbornness of the owner. And the stubbornness of the owner is part of the reason why this franchise hasn't done more in the last 3 decades. But let's stick with the curtains for right now. Donovan, what's your take on the curtains?
It's just so bad. I don't understand. Even if it was aesthetically pleasing to the eye, that's one thing. But it looks horrible on TV. It affects his team way more than it affects the others. I just don't get it and understand why he's so stubborn about that when it directly affects the play of your team and it cost them a touchdown today.
Clarence?
Yeah, Jerry is stubborn. There's no question about this because he puts them in for WWE. They put him in for concerts. You know, they've been put in for other events. He won't do it for football games because he's dug in and is stubborn. He doesn't want to make it. You know, obviously it was a mistake in how they built the stadium, the way it's, direction is turned, not putting the curtains in. He does not want to admit that mistake. CeeDee Lamb tonight advocated, I want curtains, 1,000%. Please let Jerry know.
It is unbelievable that we keep talking about the curtains. It kills me, but you know what? I'm going to continue to talk about the curtains because someone needs to bring some sense of sanity. It doesn't cost that much money to get these curtains right, and they just refuse to do it. All right, they're telling me to shut up. There's enough already about the curtains.
Curtains on this block.